I was the easy one, the quiet one, the one everyone took for granted. Then one gift at my birthday dinner revealed a truth I could no longer ignore. You ever sit through a joke that is not funny, but you laugh anyway? That was me, pretty much all the time. I was the guy who smiled through the punchlines aimed square at my dignity. The guy who let things slide, who let the little slaps to his ego pass by like mosquitoes you are too tired to swat. At first, it was just teasing. Ben from work once said I dressed like a thrift store mannequin. I chuckled. I even added, "That's a good one." Felt easier to pretend it did not sting than to say I actually liked the shirt I was wearing. Then came the nicknames. Doormat Dave. The Agreeable Ghost. I do not know which of them came up with that one, but it stuck. They said it because I never said no. Never pushed back. I was the guy who took the shift, fetched the coffee, laughed when the laugh track hit, even when the joke was me. Outside work was not much different. My cousin Mark used to ask me when I was going to get a real life. Said it in front of the whole family one Thanksgiving, fork midair. Still working that desk job, huh? Single still? Thought you would have grown up by now. Everyone laughed. Even my mother. She smiled and whispered, "He's just teasing." Like that was supposed to make it better. It never happened all at once. That is the part people never understand. Nobody walks up and spits in your face from the jump. It is small things. A backhanded compliment. A story retold with you as the fool. A request that was really a demand, passed off with a "you don't mind, do you?" And I never did. Or I said I didn't. Because speaking up meant risking a moment. Rocking the boat. Starting something. So I let it all in. Every slight. Every eye roll. Every boundary quietly crossed. I told myself it was better that way. Keep things smooth. Be the nice guy. People like the nice guy, right? But I started to notice it more when I was alone. How I would second-guess my own preferences. How I would apologize before asking a question. How I felt like I was borrowing space even in rooms I paid rent for. There was one moment, I remember, at the grocery store. A woman bumped her cart into mine, hard enough to bruise, and I told her I was sorry. I apologized for getting hit. And I meant it. That night I stood in the mirror brushing my teeth and could not look myself in the eye. But I still kept quiet. Because what is one more joke, right? What is one more favor, one more shrug, one more time swallowing that thing rising in your throat? You do it long enough, you stop noticing how much it hurts. You start thinking maybe that is just who you are. That is what I thought, anyway. Until something happened. Something I could not ignore. And for the first time, I did not laugh. I started keeping a list. Not on paper. Just in my head. A mental log of all the things I let slide. There was the time Karen in accounting accidentally deleted my part of the report. Twice. Never owned up to it. Boss said, "Let's not point fingers." So I redid the work. I smiled through the meeting like my weekend had not just been sacrificed. There was the friend, if you can even call him that, who always asked for favors but never showed up when I needed help moving. Or when my tire blew out on the interstate. Said he thought I'd figure it out. Then there was Ashley. We were seeing each other for a while. Not official. Not really casual either. That in-between space where things feel warm if you do not think too hard about it. She never asked about my day. Not once. But she talked about hers. Every detail. What her boss said. What her friend wore. What the barista got wrong in her coffee. I listened. I always listened. She called me easy to talk to, like I was a whiteboard with ears. One night, I told her I got a promotion. It was a small one. Not life-changing. But it mattered to me. I said, "I think I actually earned this." She smiled, nodded, then asked if I could swing by her place to fix her Wi-Fi. I went. That is the kind of thing I wrote down, mentally. It sounds small, I know. But small things pile up. They get heavy. And here is the thing about carrying weight quietly. Eventually, your body starts to bend, even if your mouth still says, "It's fine." That list in my head, it grew longer by the week. Every joke, every slight, every unspoken "thank you" that never came. One night, I could not sleep. Just laid there staring at the ceiling fan. I counted the times I had bitten my tongue that month. I got to 16 before I gave up. Then I started counting the last time someone said they respected me. I never found a number for that one. And I know what you were thinking. Why not say something? Why not push back? Truth is, I did not think I was allowed. Somewhere along the way, I started believing that being liked was more important than being respected. But you can only bend so far before something starts to crack. And something did crack, eventually. I just did not expect it to happen at my own birthday dinner. I did not plan anything big for my birthday. I never do. Big events come with expectations, and expectations have a way of turning into disappointment. So I kept it small. Dinner at a casual place downtown. A long table. Cheap lights. Familiar faces. People showed up late. That should have been my first clue. Ben came in laughing, already halfway through a story I had apparently missed. Ashley arrived 20 minutes after him, slid into the seat beside me without making eye contact, and immediately started scrolling on her phone. My sister Megan hugged me and said something about how time flies, then asked if I was still living alone, like that was something to be gently concerned about. I told myself not to read into it. It was just a dinner. The waiter asked if we were ready to order. Everyone talked over each other. I waited. When I finally spoke, Ben interrupted me to ask if anyone wanted to split appetizers. Nobody acknowledged that I had tried to say something first. I closed my mouth. Nodded. The jokes started early. Ben joked about my age like it was some kind of expiration date. Megan laughed a little too hard. Someone asked if I was still at the same company. When I said yes, the response was a half smile and a comment about stability being nice for some people. I paid for the first round without anyone asking. Ashley leaned across the table and told a story about a guy at her gym who made way more money than he should for how dumb he was. She said it while glancing at me, just long enough for the message to land. I laughed because that is what I always did. I made it easy for people. Then the cake came out. It was small. Chocolate. My favorite, even though nobody remembered that part. Someone stuck a candle in it and said something about making a wish. They all sang, off-key, phones half-raised for a picture I did not ask for. When the singing ended, Ben clapped me on the shoulder and said, loud enough for the table next to us to hear, "Man, you are exactly the same as you were 10 years ago. Some people never change." Everyone laughed. I felt something in my chest tighten. Not anger. Not yet. More like recognition. Like hearing a sentence you did not know had been written about you, but realizing it had been true for a long time. I looked around the table, at the people who knew me, or thought they did, and for the first time, I wondered what they would do if I stopped being who they expected. That thought scared me more than anything, because deep down, I already knew the answer, and I was not sure I was ready for it. But the night was not over yet, and neither was the lesson. After the cake, people started talking over each other again. Ashley was showing Megan a video on her phone. Ben was texting under the table. My boss, who had shown up late and uninvited thanks to Ben, was halfway through a beer and telling a story I had already heard 3 times in the break room. I just sat there, nodding, feeling more like a chair than a person. Then came the gifts. I had not asked for any, told everyone not to bother. But people brought things anyway, mostly out of obligation. A mug with a sarcastic slogan. A t-shirt that was 2 sizes too big. A gift card to a chain restaurant I had not set foot in since high school. Then Megan slid a box toward me, wrapped neat, but with this smirk on her face like she knew something I didn't. I peeled it open slowly. Inside was a framed photo. It was from a family trip, one I was not part of. They had gone to the mountains last winter. My parents, Megan, her husband, Ben, and a couple others. They told me the cabin was too small. Said it was kind of a couple's thing. I had nodded back then, pretending it was no big deal. Now here was the photo. Everyone smiling by the fire. Megan in a big wool coat. Ben holding a beer. Even Ashley was in it. I stared at it for a long second. Megan laughed and said, "We figured you'd want to feel included." A few chuckles followed. Ben added, "Now you can finally say you were there." I looked down at the frame. My chest felt tight again. Not the kind of tight that comes from anger. The kind that comes from being seen and erased in the same moment. Nobody noticed the way I set the picture down. Nobody saw the way I stared at my hands. I had said yes to too many things for too long. And now they thought of me as someone who could take a joke, no matter how much it cost. Someone who did not need to be invited, just given the scraps afterward. That was the gift. Not the frame. Not the photo. The gift was the truth I finally saw. They liked me best when I was small, and I had made it very easy for them. But something was shifting. Quietly. Deeply. And the shift would start with a sentence I had not planned to say. But when I did, nobody at that table would laugh. I do not remember deciding to speak. That is the strange part. There was no speech forming in my head. No big inhale. No mental countdown. It just happened, the way a reflex happens when you pull your hand away from something hot. Ben was still laughing about the photo. Ashley had leaned back in her chair, scrolling again. Megan was mid-sip, already moving on. And I heard myself say, calm and clear, "I am not taking this home." The table went quiet in that half-second way people do when they are not sure if they heard something correctly. Megan blinked. Ben tilted his head like I had spoken in another language. Ashley finally looked up from her phone. I pushed the frame a few inches away from me. I did not raise my voice. I did not smile either. Megan laughed, a short, awkward sound, and said something about me being sensitive. Ben followed it with a joke about how it was just a gift, not a trial. I shook my head. I said, "It is not a gift if the point is reminding me I was not invited." You could feel the shift. Like someone had opened a window in a room nobody realized was stuffy. Ashley sighed and said I was reading too much into things. That they did not think it was that deep. That nobody meant anything by it. That sentence again. Nobody meant anything by it. I looked at her and realized something else in that moment. Nobody ever meant anything by it. That was the problem. They did not have to mean it. I had been doing the work for them all along. I said, "I know you did not mean it. That does not make it okay." Silence. Ben scoffed and leaned back, crossing his arms. Megan's smile vanished. My boss cleared his throat like he wanted to disappear. Someone at the next table glanced over. I felt my heart pounding, but my voice stayed steady. That surprised me. I said, "I let a lot of things go. Too many. And I am tired of pretending they do not matter." Megan said my name the way people do when they think you are embarrassing yourself. Ashley muttered something about bad timing. Ben asked, "So what? Now we all gotta walk on eggshells around you." I looked right at him and said, "No, you just have to stop walking on me." Nobody laughed. Nobody knew what to say. And that was when I realized something important. I was not afraid anymore. But I was about to find out what it costs when you stop being easy. Because the night was not done with me yet. And neither were they. Nobody said anything for a long minute. It was not dramatic silence. It was that kind where people are calculating. You could see it on their faces. Like they were silently agreeing not to escalate. Like they were all making a group decision to pretend I was the one being difficult. Megan busied herself with her drink, eyes locked on the condensation running down the glass. Ben made a joke under his breath to my boss, something I did not catch, but I felt the side glance that followed. Ashley was staring at the exit. Nobody looked at me. The check came and Ben scooped it up like a hero, loudly saying he would take care of it. Which was funny, since I had already paid for the first round and part of the meal. But this was not about the money. It was about control. About stepping over my moment like it never happened. Nobody thanked me for what I had already covered. Nobody asked if I was okay. And when the table broke apart, and people started collecting coats and saying things like, "Great to see you," and "We'll catch up soon," nobody offered me a ride home. Not even Ashley. She had driven. I had seen her park earlier. But she just gave a light smile, said, "You good?" and walked out. I nodded. I always nodded. I stood outside the restaurant for a second. It was colder than I remembered. Or maybe I had just noticed it more. I watched their taillights vanish one by one. I stood under the yellow street lamp, alone on the sidewalk, pretending I was checking my phone just so I did not look so still. Then I started walking. I passed the bakery that always closed too early. The convenience store with the blinking sign. A group of college kids laughed too loud across the street. None of them knew what it felt like to be invisible in a room full of people who claimed to know you. And as I walked, something settled in. Not anger. Clarity. For years, I had been waiting for other people to see me. To choose me. To treat me like I mattered without me having to prove it. But all I had been doing was shrinking. Compromising. Dimming my own light so no one else felt uncomfortable. And what had it gotten me? A framed photo of a trip I was never invited to. I stopped walking when I reached my apartment. Pulled out my key. And made a decision I did not know I was capable of. Tomorrow, I was going to set a boundary. One none of them would see coming. The next morning, I woke up early. No alarm. Just the kind of wake-up that comes when your brain refuses to hit snooze on everything that needs to change. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, still half draped in yesterday's clothes. The shirt I had worn to the dinner was wrinkled. There was a faint grease stain near the hem. I remembered Ashley glancing at it, then looking away. I stood up and stripped it off like it was a skin I had outgrown. I made coffee. The good kind. Not the instant stuff I usually settled for. I poured it into the mug I actually liked. The one with the chipped rim and no sarcastic slogans. Then I opened my phone. My thumb hovered over the group chat. Fam chat, with a dumb emoji next to it. Megan had created it years ago. It was mostly used to plan things without including my input, then ping me when the details were already decided. I typed slowly. Each word felt like it had waited years to be written. Hey everyone. Just wanted to say thanks for last night. I realized something important. I will not be coming to the next get-together, or the one after that. I am taking some time for myself. No hard feelings, but I am done showing up out of habit. I stared at the screen for a few seconds. Thought about softening it. Thought about adding a smiley face or saying, hope you all understand. Then I hit send. The message left my phone and entered their world. And just like that, the pattern broke. The first reply came from Ben. Wait, what? Then Megan. Is this a joke? Then silence. Ashley did not reply. Not right away. I tossed the phone on the couch and sat back, breathing in the quiet like it was clean air after a long time underground. I did not owe anyone an explanation, but I gave myself one anyway. I had made myself small for so long. I had forgotten what it felt like to take up space without apologizing for it. I was not angry. That was the part nobody would understand. This was not revenge. This was relief. And I knew exactly what the first ripple would be. Because Ashley, who always thought I would orbit her forever, was about to respond. And when she did, everything shifted again. Ashley messaged me that night. No emojis. No punctuation. Just 3 words. Can we talk? I stared at the screen. I let the message sit there for hours, unopened. I knew she could see it had been delivered. That unread status probably drove her nuts. Around midnight, I finally opened it. I feel like something's wrong. There it was. The moment people realize the person they took for granted is no longer standing where they left them. I replied, short and clear. Nothing's wrong. I'm just done playing a part one never agreed to. No reply. Then, a second message. Are you mad at me? I stared at that one longer. It was not anger. That was the thing I kept coming back to. I was not mad. I was just done. She called. I let it ring. Twice. Third time, I answered. Her voice was soft. That, maybe if I talk gently, I can fix this tone. She said she had been thinking about things. That she never meant to hurt me. That she felt like she might have taken me for granted, but only because she knew I was strong. I let her talk. Then I asked her one question. When was the last time you asked me how I was doing? Silence. I waited. She said, I do care, you know. I've always cared. I asked, do you even know where I work? More silence. That was the moment. The real moment. The one that hit harder than any insult ever could. Because the truth was obvious. She liked that I listened. That I showed up. That I carried things without complaining. But she never saw me. Not really. And now that I had stopped absorbing it all quietly, she did not know what to do with me. She said, I think we should meet. Talk this out. In person. I said, no, I don't think we should. She asked, is this really it? I looked around my apartment. It was quiet. It was mine. For the first time, it felt like a place where I could breathe. I said, it should have been it a long time ago. Then I hung up, blocked the number, set the phone down, and let the silence stay. That was the thing nobody saw coming. Not yelling, not a meltdown, just the quiet withdrawal of someone who finally realized he was worth more than being tolerated. But the biggest reaction was still coming, from someone I never expected. 2 days passed. No messages from the group chat. Megan went silent. Ben never followed up. Ashley was gone from my phone, just a ghost in the blocked list. I expected that. What I did not expect was a knock on my door at 8 in the morning. It was my mother, hair still in rollers, coffee in hand, wearing one of those floral house robes she always swore she would throw out, but never did. She walked in without waiting for permission, sat at the edge of my couch like it was still her house, like I was still 15 and had left dishes in the sink. She said, Megan's upset. She said you embarrassed her. I just looked at her. She went on. I know things were said. I know your feelings are hurt. But family doesn't walk away over a joke. I asked her, would you say that if it was me who made Megan feel like a stranger? She waved her hand. You're stronger. You always have been. That word again. Strong. They loved calling me strong. What they meant was, you do not get to break. What they meant was, you're the one we can hurt and not worry about. She said, Megan told me about the picture. It was just meant to be funny. I said it wasn't. She looked annoyed now, like I was being difficult, like I had interrupted her peace. Then she said something that caught me sideways. She's having a hard year, you know? The pregnancy, the money issues, the job stuff. She said you offered to help and then ghosted. I froze. I never offered anything. I didn't offer to help, I said slowly. Mom blinked. She said you told her you'd cover a few things. When? Few weeks ago. Said you promised her $2,000 for some bills. That's why she was so confused when you snapped at dinner. I just sat there, letting it settle. I never promised that. But someone had. Someone using my name. I checked my bank app right there in front of her. 2,000 gone. Transferred out a week ago. I clicked the transaction. Recipient, Megan's husband. No text. No request. No heads up. They had saved my login info from that time I helped them with their taxes. They used it. Quietly. Like it belonged to them. I looked at my mother. She knew. I could see it in her face. Not surprised. Just tired. Like this had been going on a while, and she was just hoping I would not make a fuss. She said, "They needed it more than you." That sentence. That sentence. That was the moment something final broke. Not a crack this time. A clean break. I stood up and pointed to the door. And for the first time in my life, I told my mother to leave. No yelling. No explaining. No justifying. She looked at me, stunned. And I realized in that moment, she did not come to fix anything. She came to protect the people who thought I was theirs to use. And now, she was just another one of them. She stood there for a second, my mother, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. She opened the door, turned like she wanted to say something, then stopped herself. She walked out without a word, and I let the door close behind her. It was not triumphant. It was not satisfying. It just was. Solid. Still. Real. I sat back down on the couch, same spot I had spent so many nights trying to disappear. Only now, the silence felt different. It did not feel like loneliness. It felt like clarity. I checked my bank account again. Still gone. $2,000 I would never see again. But honestly, that wasn't the part that hurt. What hurt was knowing that I had made it that easy. That they all counted on me saying nothing. That I had been that predictable. That kind of trust, the wrong kind, is hard to break. But I finally did. I deleted the group chat. Took my name off the family calendar. Canceled every automatic obligation I had said yes to out of guilt or habit. No big speech. No dramatic announcements. Just quiet changes. Consistent ones. Over the next few weeks, the texts slowed. Then stopped. Birthdays came and went. Nobody called. Ashley unfollowed me. Ben posted some sarcastic meme about sensitive people that I knew was about me. Megan sent a single message about keeping things civil. I left it on read. People act like silence is passive. It isn't. It is active. It is a decision. It is choosing not to absorb what is not yours anymore. And when you make that choice, people either adjust or they disappear. Either way, the noise goes away. That was months ago. Now, I have space. I have peace. I have boundaries that are not just ideas in my head, but real lines people can see. And when someone crosses them, I do not raise my voice. I just raise the cost. It turns out, dignity is not dramatic. It is not about proving anyone wrong or burning bridges. It is showing up, over and over, for yourself, especially when nobody else does. And if anyone asks what changed, I tell them the truth. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. I stopped laughing at jokes that were never funny. I stopped being strong in the way that meant quiet. And for the first time in my life, I started being free.